Welcome back to the Colorado Trail Day 33. If you're new to this video series, we've been asking and answering a question each hiking day. We've been asking questions about hiking gear, we've been asking questions about science and engineering, and we've even been asking questions about the emotional aspects of hiking. So again, if you're new to this series, I invite you to go back to the beginning once this video is concluded and watch the entire series. Now, speaking of looping back to the beginning, our day 33 question is, what else can we learn about the Colorado Trail? Well, we've invited a special guest, the Executive Director of the Colorado Trail Foundation, Bill Manning, to help us answer that question. So let's cut away to that conversation. We're here with Bill Manning, the Executive Director of the Colorado Trail Foundation. Thanks, Bill, for joining us.
Yeah, it's really great opportunity. I like science, and I like speaking with a science-oriented audience.
Okay, great. So you're the Executive Director of the Colorado Trail Foundation. Tell us a little bit about your job there.
Well, I oversee practically everything on a day-to-day basis, and a big part of my job is to keep the funding coming in so that we can afford to keep our trail stewardship going. That's our main mission, and we really are serious about keeping this trail in good condition and super enjoyable for everybody who travels it.
So how did you get involved with the Colorado Trail?
Well, years ago, I got involved with another trail organization, and I was the executive director of it, and I was also the trail boss. So I was. It was a one-man show, and was in Durango.
Okay.
And during that time, I became a volunteer for this organization, the Colorado Trail Foundation. I became an adopter, and I had a responsibility for a few miles, and then a few more miles. And then I got on the board of directors. And when this organization hired their first ever executive director, full-time position, they hired me. And I've been the executive director for 15 years now. And boy, it's a hard job, but it's really been rewarding, and really enjoy it.
I like that name, Trail Boss. That sounds very, very serious.
Well, it is pretty serious.
Yeah. When you're mentioning about kind of taking care of the trail, like who is taking care of the trail?
Well, in the case of the Colorado Trail, it is the Colorado Trail Foundation that takes on all the responsibility for caring for the 567 miles of the Colorado Trail. And we do so with volunteers. So we have two programs. We have our trail adopters. We have 84 of them, and the trail is broken into that many sections.
Okay.
And those folks go out every spring, soon after the snow melts, and they cut apart the trees that fall over and block the way. So they clear the trail. And they also dig the silt and debris out of the water diversions so that they keep working and keep the trail tread from eroding. And then our adopters report back to home base, and that gives us key information that helps us with our trail crews, our second program, where we assemble 15 to 25 people at one time, and we work to improve a very small section of the trail, usually multi-day, and cooking together, working on the trail together, led by a volunteer leader. And so nobody really needs to know what they're doing, because we'll guide you on a trail crew. And people sign up for these things. We have a great time together, and we work our tail off to keep the Colorado Trail in good condition.
I noticed the section that as you're approaching Silverton, I think it's Mullis Pass, there was those avalanche areas. I'd almost argue to keep those in place just for the fun of it, for the fun of climbing over those logs and trees that had fallen down. But I'm assuming there's probably some effort to kind of clear more of a path for thru hikers in that section.
Yeah, well, the Colorado Trail is not just for hikers, it's for mountain bikers and for horseback riders. And in that particular area, the cyclists aren't allowed because it's in wilderness, but the horseback riders just can't make it through that avalanche area right now. So we absolutely have to go clear that avalanche debris, and it'll take us multiple seasons. We made some good progress this summer, late summer, after you were there, probably after you went through. We sawed apart a whole bunch of it and took care of, well, we got most of the work done on 2 piles out of 4. And but we worked on the 2 baby-sized piles, and we got a lot more work to do. So a couple more seasons probably. And there is an effort the Forest Service is waging to see if they can get approval to do dynamite, and to see if they can get the funding that would fund the professionals that would take the worst of it and blow it apart with explosives. I get the idea these are little small charges, and they blow apart small pieces of it at a time. And boy, with the scale of that avalanche debris, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, there were 5. I remember 5 sections that we hiked through.
Yeah.
So it would take a lot of work just with a chainsaw. So maybe, if you're right, small charges of dynamite might work.
Well, and we can't use a normal chainsaw in there because it's wilderness.
Oh, okay.
We are. At most, we can use hand saws.
Oh my, that would take.
Yeah, so that's some serious muscle power, I'll tell you, and a little bit on the dangerous side, because when you cut big wood, there's some stresses involved, and sometimes it moves, and it's heavy, and it can hurt you. So we have to be super safety oriented.
Yeah, we're on a slope there, and so using or cutting any of the logs, you're right. The part that's upslope or uphill could move, and yeah, there's a lot of safety involved in cutting those. So possibly, yeah, a small charge dynamite might be better. Yeah.
Well,
so
we'll see. We did some real good work with saws, and we can keep going at that. But we've got monumental work ahead.
Right. So I've asked a lot of questions in this video series, but I haven't really asked about the history of the Colorado Trail, like when it was formed and actually how long it took to create the trail. So could you talk a little bit about the history of the Colorado Trail?
Sure. It was envisioned in the 1970s, okay. And folks thought it was going to be a kind of a quick project. There were lots of routes that were already in existence. It was a matter of connecting them. But it proved to be a much, much larger project than the people that were first involved. And it wasn't until the 1980s that our organization made good progress, and we connected it up end to end in 1987. And had some ceremonies with some golden spike hammering and all of that. And then we changed our effort from building it and connecting it to improving upon it. The original alignment had included many, many more road miles than today's alignment. So our organization has been building small sections of single track for years and years, trying to improve upon the trail, and boy, we think we've made it a lot more enjoyable and scenic by moving it off the roads to the extent we can, and that effort is still underway. So basically envisioned in the 70s, connected in the 80s and improved upon in the 90s and 2000s.
And when was the Collegiate West added onto it?
That became part of our Colorado Trail in 2012.
Okay.
And it was an official order by the Forest Service that made it so.
Okay.
And of course, we work very closely with the U.S. Forest Service on all of this because they are the authority and have jurisdiction on most of the Colorado Trail is national forest. So we work with those folks, and the Collegiate West was added, and it's a beautiful 80 miles. A lot of it's very high, super scenic, very rugged. It'll tire you out, won't it, Nathan?
Yes. I'm intrigued to see the Collegiate East, so I could compare the two. I'd like to go back maybe next summer and do the Collegiate East part of the Colorado Trail.
Well, I think you ought to double down on that and do the Collegiate Loop with doing both the East and the West in one shot, about 160 miles. For a guy like you, that's about, I don't know, 10, 12, 14 days, somewhere in there.
I did meet a lot of people that were doing the Collegiate Loop. Actually, right when I started the Collegiate West, I met a couple of people that were just finishing up the loop. As I was going over Hope Pass, they were coming up, and that was the first couple that I met. And then after that, over the next couple of days, just for meeting a bunch of people. So, maybe that should be, you're right. Maybe I shouldn't just do the Collegiate West. I should do both.
Yeah. Do the loop. Do the East first and the West last, and go opposite direction on the West that you went this time.
Right. Yeah. So as I was just said, I was meeting a lot of people on the Colorado Trail. Do you know how many on average actually complete the entire Colorado Trail each year?
Yeah, well, it varies year to year, but for example, this year we think of about 700 people probably completed the trail this year.
Wow.
We know that because about 500 people have asked us for a completion certificate.
Okay.
And we think a good number of folks that complete ask us for their certificate to put it up on the wall. It's a big accomplishment. We congratulate people like crazy for it. It's boy, what a goal to set and then to attain. It's really wonderful. But anyway, somewhere around 500 people complete. And then people frequently ask me, how many people start with the intention of completing in a particular year? And because we know that not everybody who starts ends up completing.
Right.
So I would say maybe probably about 1,200 people started the trail with the intention of completing this year, and maybe 700 completed. So I would say the completion rate is, somewhere around 60%, maybe, something like that. Approaching half of the folks who are traveling that intend to complete probably don't make it. Blisters,
right.
Ankle sprains, that's the biggest part of it right there. But sometimes people have problems with their dogs. The dog can't handle the miles or something.
Right. Wow. Would you say you had more hikers this year compared to previous years, or less hikers this year?
The COVID situation caused our numbers to surge.
Okay.
We had far more trail travelers this year, and we chalked that up in part to the cabin fever that probably all of us felt. We're just itching to get out, and we couldn't always do what we had planned.
Yeah.
And then on each coast, we have the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, and both of those were closed this year when people were launching their trips. So a lot of those folks that were planning to do one of those coastline trails couldn't do it, and they looked elsewhere. And quite a few found and decided to do the Colorado Trail instead. Did you run into some of those folks this year?
I met about a half a dozen thru hikers that were initially going to do the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, and their plans were obviously canceled, and so they decided to come over to the Colorado Trail.
Yeah.
And so that the increase in numbers is not a surprise. What you mentioned about people having cabin fever and wanting to get out, I also was hearing that a lot of outdoor sports equipment stores were just selling out. Their sales were through the roof around the entire country. It was hard for me to get some simple, like butane, those little small butane gas canisters. They were hard to find in Denver. And I know even here in Louisiana, there's a great outdoor sporting store here that is, that they said their sales were through the roof. So I think that makes sense. People had some form of cabin fever. And when you think about a thru hike, it's really a great activity in these times. You're outdoors, you're getting exercise, and you are getting sunlight and natural UV light, and you're away from each other. You're naturally social distancing, and you can easily put up a mask if others are around. So it is the ideal activity in these times.
A particularly good fit this year with the pandemic, and people appreciated it maybe even that much more. We're so fortunate that our authorities did not close the Colorado Trail.
Yeah.
And part of that was due to our timing. In March and April is when the PCT is, people are starting in. But it's in July when people are starting the Colorado Trail. So the pandemic had a chance to mature a little bit and our understanding of it improve. And so by the time that the Colorado Trail travelers are starting their trips, our trail was still open. And we're just so grateful. And so many people enjoyed it this year.
Yeah. So when someone goes on a thru hike or is planning to hike the Colorado Trail, do most of them go southbound, or do most of them go northbound and start in Durango and head towards Denver?
Well, we have polled people in the past, and we've come up with about 90% travel southbound.
Okay.
And there's some good reasons for that. One is that the elevation gain on the Denver end heading southbound is more or less a gentle ramp. Certainly relative to going the other direction, it's a real steep ramp on if you would start in Durango, and it's much harder on your body to start in Durango. And altitude sickness is a very serious thing. So people are, we think, really smart with the altitude to start in Denver. And further, we think the trail generally gets prettier and prettier as you travel towards Durango, southbound. So mentally, it's a benefit to travel southbound and keep seeing prettier and prettier terrain.
Yeah, there were some beautiful areas in the first few sections, but when you got to maybe close to Kenosha Pass, then you could start to see the snow-capped peaks in the distance. And that's for me, starting in Denver, in Littleton Canyon or Waterton Canyon. The first few days were amazing, but you're right, it kind of gradually eased me into the Colorado Trail, and so to speak, prepped me for the much higher elevation areas later on going southbound.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and everybody likes those big views where you can see, 20 to 50 miles, 100 miles even.
right.
And so frequently you can see a mountain range way back in the distance that you've already crossed. And it's just the coolest feeling uh, to, to see a distant terrain that you've already traveled.
Yeah.
You probably enjoyed that.
Yes, there, especially getting up to Georgia Pass, you could see. I felt that that was one of the first times when you could look back and see we just covered all of these miles, and this is where we're going. We're going that direction
Right.
towards down into Breckenridge. And so it was really exciting. That I guess that was our first like big pass, and we got up really early in the morning and hiked over Georgia Pass. But that felt like, okay, we're now really into it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been a few days of some thick forests, and yes, we've had some really good views. It's been gorgeous, amazing. But no, this is it. This is now we're really into it.
Well, it
Yeah.
helps you really understand how much work you're putting in to travel 500 miles. It's a really big deal what you did, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you. Obviously you enjoyed yourself.
Oh, it was phenomenal. It was. I'm I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm still thinking. I'm like, man, I should go back and do it again, but this time in the other direction.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
I mean, the whole trail is beautiful. Is there any section that stands out for you as like your favorite?
Yeah, I really like the Collegiate West,
Yeah.
but even more than that, I like the San Juan Mountains on the Durango end, sort of Lake City, Silverton to Durango, that kind of uh, acreage. And my particular favorite segment is segment 23. It's all above timberline, and it's a big roller coaster. Cataract Lake is in there, and Coney Coney Summit is just behind you, where the high point is. And boy, it's really pretty down there. I love being above timberline.
Yeah. That was the high point that day was just incredible. There was
Yeah,
one climb right before, maybe a couple miles before the high point on the Colorado Trail, and you went up to a ledge, and you could see kind of down into this valley area off to the right. But it was a really steep. It was almost a little close to a rock scramble right at the top there. And a little bit of a nerve-wracking point for me, as I've mentioned in some of my videos, that this Colorado Trail has pushed my fears of heights a little bit, but it's been good for me.
yeah, that's great. That is great. I followed along a little bit on your trip and have seen even more videos after your trip, and I've really enjoyed them.
Thank you, thank you.
You did a very good job with your science-related questions in advance, and then your footage on the trail afterwards, and all your description is really good.
Thank you. Yeah, we're just trying to introduce people to the outdoors a little bit more, and ask some fun questions, a little bit about not just about the science, but also about hiking and a little bit of the through hiking culture. So, well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, talking about the Colorado Trail. I'm trying to educate people about it because it's so much fun, and I think it's been, as you said earlier, I think we've, at least for me, and I think others that I met on the Colorado Trail, that we really appreciated the Colorado Trail being open and had an opportunity to do this, because it's a trip that I'll never forget, and hopefully I'll be able to get out there again soon.
Oh, that's great. That is so great. And good luck to you and your audience, and this paying attention to all these science-related things relative to our natural world. It's just superb.
All right. Well, thanks again, and hopefully we'll speak soon.
Okay.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right. Bye-bye.
We hope you've enjoyed that conversation, and hopefully you learned a little bit more about the Colorado Trail. Now for the day 33 hiking footage, sadly, bittersweet, this is our final day of hiking as we hike from Taylor Lake all the way to Durango, finishing the 486 miles of the Colorado Trail. So we hope you enjoy today's hiking footage, and we'll see you soon. Good morning. Well, turns out this is the last day. Yeah. I'm gonna hike 23 miles into the Durango Terminus, and I always get a little, there you go. Gotta do better on the lighting. Well, it's the last day. Yeah. Yesterday was so nerve-wracking, the last 2 or 3 miles, and we've got this little mini pass going over right now, and then it's like 7 miles downhill, and then there's some uphill, and then there's another, I don't know, 6 or 7 miles downhill. So anyways, it's been an incredible journey, and I'm tired of I'm just tired. And I think that I'd rather just put in a really long day and get to the end and celebrate rather than postponing it another day. So this trail has been nerve-wracking and challenging, strenuous, but I don't know how I got through some of these passes, especially yesterday. But what an incredible journey to see this part of Colorado, this from Denver all the way to Durango. Met so many wonderful people out here on the trail. So, but I've already hiked 2 miles, so I got about a little under 21 miles. So let's get over this last little incline, and then it's all downhill. Well, almost. So I hope you've enjoyed this series and seen the progression of this beard. But I'm looking forward to the amenities of indoor sleeping on a regular basis, that is. So, okay, let's get up, and I'll show you the views today. Enjoy. Last little pass, not too bad. And we got a big downhill. Here we go. All right. Beautiful morning. Beautiful morning. So a lot of the your time is spent here on the trail thinking about how far you have to hike and what time do you think you'll get to your destination. And so if you're doing a lot of uphills, you're obviously going to be slower. Today, fortunately, it's after that mini climb, we're in the middle right now of a 7-mile descent, and I've got about 3 more to go. But you do think, okay, if I can average, let's say 3, maybe a little bit more miles per hour, and it's 8:40 right now, and I've got X amount of miles to go, what time will I get to the Durango Terminus? It's like an ACT question, but it's pretty simple though. So, but you just keep churning away and you keep updating yourself, seeing how far you've gone on this little app that I've got, and that's a good amount of time spent thinking about that. So you're so focused on the trail, you're so focused on water and food and how far you have to go and what time it is. I mean, last night we got down to that lake, Taylor Lake, really late, like 7, maybe 7:15. There's not a lot of light, especially there was that huge cliff above, so that was blocking the sun to the west. So we didn't have a lot of time to set up camp and get something to eat, but we did it. But usually everybody's in bed by 8:30, the latest 9 o'clock. Yeah, so I didn't fall asleep till 9:45. I know, right? So, anywho, we are crushing it right now. We're bending back and forth between these 2 canyons, and so that's why you saw one creek on the left and then another on the right. So it's kind of cool, and these clearly are going to merge down here in about a mile. Probably take a rest there for 10 minutes or so. But that noise that you hear, a little creek. All right, keep trucking to Durango. Thinking about yesterday, the last 3 miles or so, and it was very nerve-wracking. And there have been several times like that on this trail where you've got steep mountain pass ahead of you, or rock scramble, but you're in a position where you can't turn back. You can't. You have to keep going. There's no other choice. Well, I mean, you could turn back, but it'd be harder to turn back because it would be really far, or it's kind of almost a daily occurrence here on the Colorado Trail. You're just faced with like a steep climb or a sketchy mountain pass or some very long distance. I guess that's what a thru hike is, though. You just keep going. You have to keep going. There's no other way around it. And so that calmed the nerves a little bit, but ooh, still adrenaline rush after adrenaline rush. All right. All right, we've just been walking along this ridge. We had a 1,000-foot climb up this ridge, and now we're headed down, and that's it. We've got a little under 10 miles to go, and so it's just not much to see other than just this trail and this ridge off to the left. For the past couple hours. So, I'm tired. All right, gotta crank out a few more hours to get into Durango. I'm finding myself hiking really fast right now, and I'm not sure why. Well, actually I do. I just want to get to the finish and start celebrating. Yeah. Also, the altitude right now is way below what I've been at the last couple of weeks, so it's also easier to hike. I mean, we're below 9,000 feet, and we've been at 11 or 12,000 feet, and I've acclimated to the point where now I'm just, when I get back to Lafayette, 36 feet above sea level, I'll be speeding everywhere. Well, just for a little bit, but I'll lose the altitude advantage. So, yeah. Well, we're about 5 miles to the finish, and I am just cruising along here. Woo! All right, see you soon. Okay, gotta get some water before we head out. Under a mile to go, and a lot of things are going through my mind, and what this trail has offered. I think first and foremost are the people you experience it with. Met a lot of great people, had a lot of good friends hike with me, and there's something about a shared experience that, I don't know, creates somewhat of a bond between people, is you've got this, this shared experience, this shared challenge, and there's I don't know, you always have that between two people, or three people, or many people. So, other thoughts of, I can't believe I hiked close to 500 miles. So there's a sense of accomplishment, and I don't know, I've said a few times that I've got a fear of heights, and certainly face that almost every single day, including today, just ridge walking, and there's sheer cliffs. Anyways, I'm into flat territory, and would like to remain in the flat territory for a while. But there's also a sense of like, I'm ready for this to be done. Like, just tired. And you put your body through so much, up and down, and your feet, and it's grueling. It really is. And you, certainly if the trail was another 100 miles, I'd do it. Or 200 miles, I'd do it. But it's not. It's only probably 3/4 of a mile. So I'm excited to embrace all of the amenities of regular life again. Whew. All right. See you soon at the terminus. Thanks for watching this Colorado Trail video series. If you've enjoyed this more inquiry-based format of us asking and answering a question for each hiking day, please comment below. We'd love to hear your perspective. As for future videos, I'm an assistant professor of science education at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, thus the Louisiana Lungs nickname I had on the trail. I will be posting occasionally some science and engineering education lessons, plus future hiking videos. So if you're into those things and you'd like to subscribe, please do so. However, in the meantime, take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.